Hey guys, this is Trick Enigma, and welcome to the second episode of the Grains of Sand podcast for Gamers Among Us. Today we're going to talk about a couple of different new and upcoming games. If you like our stuff, check us out at Facebook. You can do groups/Gamers Among Us, or check us out on Twitter at Gamers Among. Sit tight and hope you enjoy.
Hey guys, welcome back. This is Calamity Code with Gamers Among Us. I'm here with Trick and the Steel Grizzly. Unfortunately, Wilucco could not join us today, but he will be here next time. He is greatly missed. So to start off, we're going to talk about one of the biggest games right now and something that everybody is talking about, which is Apex Legends. Just came out last week as of this recording, but I don't know when exactly we're going to post this, so it might be out for a while by the time you hear it. But so Apex came out, I think it was Tuesday?
It was on a Tuesday.
It was Tuesday, and it just, boom, it was everywhere. Like, everybody that was streaming Fortnite before that started streaming Apex, and, like, Ninja's playing it, and all the big Call of Duty people are playing it. It's just massive, and there's a lot of discussion about it taking over Fortnite.
It definitely took the Battle Royale world by storm.
Yeah.
And yes, that pun was intended.
Was it 10 million, I think, within the first week?
Yeah.
10 million people. I mean, it is a free-to-play game, so it did that at least right. Whereas, PUBG was like, we're still going to have you pay for the game and then pay for the battle pass on top of that, and we're still going to have the same issues we've had since starting the game and not fix it. And expect you to be okay with our cosmetics.
Yeah, and Blackout kind of had the same issue. They tried to really redo the system or redo the genre, but it was a $60 game, and then they didn't have enough content to support that. It had 2 other modes, but a lot of people bought it just so they could play Blackout, and it ended up just being a huge buggy disappointment.
Yeah, I feel the same. Like, Apex, for me, and I mean, we've all three, and Will, since he's not here, but we've all played it a bunch this week, and I think everyone's played it. A lot of the big streamers are playing it, and I think what Apex did is it kind of took pieces and bits and pieces of other Battle Royale games and said, hey, this is how to do it, this is how you do it right. Mm-hmm. Like, it took some pieces from Blackout. I even feel like it kind of took a little bit from Overwatch with the characters that you can be and the different abilities and stuff like that. And I think Apex just kind of did it correctly.
Yeah, and that's something I've said to you guys before, but multiplayer games have been doing the specialist thing for a while now with Overwatch, and I think it was Black Ops 3 that really jump-started that, where you could choose different characters that had different abilities, and you had to figure out which one you were better at. But this is the first time that it's been in a Battle Royale game, at least like that.
Yeah, I actually like that it was a surprise. Like, nowadays, there's so much marketing for every game that comes out, even the free ones. And just, like, the fact that they were just like, hey, here's this neat intro into this game that's coming out. And then at the very end, it's like, oh, surprise, that game is actually out right now. So go ahead and download it for free. Like, I don't know. That was a really big thing for me that made it pretty legit.
Yeah, and for how big it is already, like, that's pretty crazy that they kept it a secret for so long.
Yeah,
like,
I think
nobody knew it was coming.
I think they were saying within the first 8 hours there were over 1 million downloads. That's a pretty big feat.
Yeah.
It essentially wiped out pretty much all the other battle royales. Like you were saying, Fortnite is a ghost town now.
Yeah. And I actually, like, I didn't even know that they were showing anything, and someone at work messaged me, and they were like, hey, have they started the stream already for the... And I was like, I didn't even know there is one, but sure, I'll check it out. And I Googled it and found the IGN stream, and they were like, oh, starting in 2.5 hours. And I was like, okay, cool. So I started watching it, and I was like, holy crap, this actually looks really awesome. And then they were like, it's out now. And I was like, holy crap, I'm going to play it tonight.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I remember, like, I follow a few kind of popular streamers on Twitter, like Dr. Lupo and a couple others. And I noticed that whenever they were like, hey, they shipped them all out to their location on site, so they couldn't, try to reveal any footage. Mm-hmm. Had them all play the games, and everyone's like, oh, this is going to be an awesome game. And everyone, of course, is like, it's okay. But that was the day before it released. Like, all the games nowadays, like, not to bring up or dig up any old bones, but like Fallout 76, they beta tested it. They came out with stuff. It's multiplayer online for, 12 people?
Yeah.
And it still has really horrible bugs. I mean, not to knock it, a lot of people love the game, but that's a really good example of a huge AAA company coming out with like a game that should be better, and they're like, oh, it's just Bethesda bugs. It's, it's a funny little quirk that we have, and it's like, no, dude, come out with your shit, get your shit in a box, put it together, and come out with some good content. Like, really,
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at. And Apex, they came out with all their shit together in a box, and they said, look, this is it. We have maybe some connection issues, which are really not bad at all.
Yeah.
It's I don't know, like, they did all of it right, is what I feel like. And that's why there's 10 million people playing it now.
And that's the crazy thing about it. I haven't experienced, besides some connection issues getting into a lobby, I haven't noticed any bugs. I haven't fallen through the map or had a gun, like, glitch out on me and freak out, like...
I did see a player's teeth when I died. That was interesting. Like, when it zoomed in on my body, it went through their skull, and I saw the teeth. It was pretty high detail.
I mean, even for...
But you're saying, there's really not any issues, and it's pretty amazing that they were able to pull that off.
Yeah, it's super well done for something that was just sprung on us without any, like you said, without any beta tests, without any, trials or anything like that.
Yeah, and I think... Not to keep pushing our point anymore on Apex, but like one thing in Blackout I noticed that was kind of annoying is when you go to pick up weapons, it would take forever. Where in Apex, you can literally slide by something, pick it up.
Yeah, and that's actually something that when the beta came out, everybody was complaining that you had to sit there and you had to stare at a gun for like 3 seconds and hold the button to pick it up, and they kept giving us excuses, and there's like all kinds of buttons that are assigned to emotes that nobody cares about, and like they really do a good job.
I guess not to knock Blackout, because I know those guys worked really hard, but it's a good example of trying to be like PUBG and like Fortnite. They, like you said, they had emotes that like no one really cared about yet. Mm-hmm. The gameplay wasn't really good, and after it came out, they kept mass producing updates that were like 5 to 10 gigs.
Yeah.
So, like, not only on top of the original game, you have all this other content. But another game that I know, just to move on from Apex, that did really well is Kingdom Hearts 3, and I'll let Trick talk about that.
Right, so it's been out about a week, maybe 2 weeks almost now.
As of this recording.
As of this recording, it's been out about 2 weeks. It launched on the 25th, and Kingdom Hearts 3 is the final episode of the Kingdom Hearts storyline, and it tells the story of Sora and Donald and Goofy as they try to fix the worlds and right all the wrongs that have happened in the previous ones. They're trying to stop the Heartless from invading and overtaking the universe, and they end up in several different worlds, like San Tokyo, the Frozen Lands, Tangled, I think, is one as well. I haven't gotten to check out too much gameplay yet, but if you're into good graphics, this is definitely a game for you. From the few things I've seen, your finishing combos have so many bright lights and everything's flashy and over the top. At one point you turn into a lion, you're riding on a train. Fight scenes are definitely worth checking out, and if you aren't into the Kingdom Hearts world yet, you should probably at least read up a summary before you get started, because the intro itself will leave you confused. As somebody that only played 1 and 2, as soon as I watched the intro, I was like, no, I should probably go back and read and find out who all of these people are, because Sora, Donald, and Goofy aren't even in the first 5-minute intro. So
yeah, even if you have played more than 2 or 3 games in that series, you're not going to know what's going on unless you read something or watch a video, because that is one of the most convoluted universes.
It really is. I mean, it's Square Enix at its best. So it's basically just Square Enix with Disney covers on some of the characters, but
yeah.
Not saying you have to play the games, but at least read. There's plenty of videos out there. I watched one the other day that was like an 18-minute video about all the storylines. And yes, it took 18 minutes to give a very brief summary, but it did a very good job of explaining it. And I feel like that'll make the game itself that much better for the players. So it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, so personally though, honestly, I'm a little bit let down by it. I mean, I haven't played it, but reading the reviews and seeing the gameplay and stuff, it's like it was 10 years and all this build up, and they kept announcing that it was still coming, and they really wanted us to get into it, and then they released a so-so game, it seems like.
It's like my roommate pointed out, they've spent 10 years promising that they were going to add more worlds than any other game. They were going to bring back so many of the old ones while introducing new ones. And from the looks of it, if there are more worlds than the other games, there aren't very many. So that part was kind of a letdown. Because, I mean, the whole fun in Kingdom Hearts is going and playing around with all the Disney characters, and they're kind of limiting what access you have to do that. So I feel like one article I read said it was too little too late.
Yeah.
That might be right. I haven't played the game yet, so don't take that as my final review on it, but it's definitely not getting the wow that was expected.
It's a Kingdom Hearts game, and that's what we wanted, but with all the build up and all the time it took to make it, we were expecting a lot more out of it.
Right.
I think, and they released a Kingdom Hearts game, and it's good because I love Kingdom Hearts games, and you know, it's another one of those, and it's going to be a good game, but it's not at all what it was built up to be, or what it should have been at this point.
What was it, like 10 years?
Yeah, I mean,
about?
Let me see when Kingdom Hearts 2 came out.
Yeah, I think it was about 10 years, and it only has, like, I don't want to reveal, like, too many spoilers, but, like, there's 5 or 6 worlds that are new, right?
Yeah, essentially. There might be a few more,
and,
but,
like, the first one has almost that many.
Yeah.
So it's new content, but they didn't really live up to all the hype.
Yeah.
Is essentially what it is.
Plus, they announced these worlds as they completed them, so throughout the years, we already knew what worlds were going to be in it, and that's...
I mean, yeah, like...
Not to go back into Apex.
Story,
yeah. Not to go back to Apex, but I do like a surprise every once in a while. Like, I don't want the whole story revealed to me before I even start the game.
But yeah, so I looked it up. Kingdom Hearts 2 came out in 2005. And there were hints at the end of that game that there's a third one coming. So that's 14 years.
Yeah, that's more than 10.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, it is a good game, so we're not knocking it. It's just more 14 years of production. I mean, obviously the game engines and everything changed throughout the years, so that's probably one reason why it got held back. But it's almost like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
You could have done better.
And it's funny because even on the last episode we were talking about it, we were like, "Oh, I think there might be Star Wars. I don't think there's any Marvel. There's none of that. Like
they had so much potential, and they just kind of
everything they've acquired in the last 5 or 6 years is untouched, basically, and it's just I don't know. Like I said, I'll probably play it because I love Kingdom Hearts, and I'm excited to give it a chance, but I'm disappointed by it already.
I feel like if they had planned it out better, start to finish, and instead of doing 1 and the 2 and then Birth by Sleep and Dream Drop Distance and all those, if they had just done it in a linear fashion, it would have gone over a lot better for a lot of people, because like I said in the beginning, you have to follow the story to understand it. And what we thought was going to be 3 turned into Birth by Sleep, and that was a bit of a letdown for a lot of people. And I just think at this point there's been so many, well, this is going to be 3 and then it's a totally different game, that by the time Kingdom Hearts 3 came out, most fans were already tired of the story and were ready to move on.
The hardcore fans who are like, you were saying, just watch this 18-minute video, you'll be okay. And there's fans out there that are like, no, you have to play every single game in this exact order to get the storyline, and if you don't do it, then you shouldn't play this game. And it turns off a lot of new players, because there's another, it's been, like you said, 14 years. So there's another generation of kids who want to play this game. And they're getting turned off by kids our age in the 30s or older 20s that are like, no, you need to do this way and this way. And they're like, they look up to a lot of people like that, and it's kind of disappointing. But, all right, go ahead. I
was just going to say, when I was doing my research before playing the game, come to find out that the mobile game, which I think is Union Cross, it actually has a rolling campaign, so each month there's new parts of that story that come out, and that story predates everything else. So, you don't even know all of the introductory stuff about this game yet, because they're still making it.
It reminds me of J.K. Rowling when she was just throwing out new Harry Potter facts on Twitter, and everyone was like, okay, cool.
Dumbledore's gay.
Yeah, stuff like that. It's cool, but why do I need to know that? What are you doing
Harry really should have gone with Hermione.
Yeah.
It's
we all knew that one.
All right, well, we don't need you taken back. It's already in print. But I guess moving on from Kingdom Hearts, we could talk about that for a long time. I know we were supposed to talk about something else, but skipped over it, but we're just going to go ahead and move right over to Resident Evil 2.
Oh, I forgot.
So, moving on to Resident Evil 2, it released January 25th. It is a remake of the 1998 game, which sold over 4 million copies, almost 5 million. And it centers around Leon and Claire, two people who were kind of trapped in Raccoon City. And this is another example, since we just talked about Kingdom Hearts, which is a game that has a lot of die-hard fans. Resident Evil has a lot of die-hard fans, and a lot of people were excited about this game, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's not going to be the same, I don't know. But from what I've heard, Resident Evil 2 looks like it's going to be really good. They updated the graphics, obviously. That's the main thing about the remake. And then also, they, from what I've heard, and from some of the spotlights we did and some of the reviews we've looked at personally, like, it's pretty bloody.
Tell them about the Mr. X thing.
Okay. To carry on what Grizz was saying, it is a pretty interesting game, and one of the most interesting, to me at least, tidbits is the Tyrant, also known as Mr. X, has managed to scare the shit out of everybody that has played the game. Even, returning fans are getting startled as Mr. X bashes his way through a door.
Was he in the original one?
He was.
He was,
I don't
but
think I
he
really
wasn't.
played it that much. But...
The difference between, from what I've read, the difference between the original and this one is he was only in a small portion of the original game. Like, he only came out in certain parts, and I think he was like, it was just a little bit here and there. Grizz might know the specific details.
Yeah, it wasn't as much as it is now, like, where he just seems to randomly pop up and, like, throw shit out of the way and, like, destroy you with one punch.
Yeah, his sole purpose is to eliminate any evidence of what all is going on. So if he hears you, and he has pretty good hearing, if he hears you, he will chase his way after you. And from what I've heard, there's essentially no way of killing him. You just need to turn around and run.
It's funny, there was a clip on Reddit where some guy actually had 2 Mr. X's spawn. So he was in the corner, there was 2 hallways, and there was one Mr. X coming from each direction.
Oh, no.
It was so bad.
That sounds hilarious.
Yeah, it does sound hilarious, but also kind of terrifying.
Yeah,
You're just
right?
like, oh god. But yeah, that game definitely, it's kind of done the same as Kingdom Hearts 3. Like, it wasn't bad, and it wasn't, like, super awesome, but it did really well. I think it sold a lot of copies, and a lot of the friends that I have that were, like, really hyped about it really enjoyed it. Still has the gameplay mechanic of you only have 5 bullets, so you better use them wisely.
Yeah, it's true to the original game.
Yeah,
and that was back when Resident Evil games were, survival horrors, not action games like Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6 were, I think.
Yeah.
7 kind of brought it back to that, but the remake was good.
And one plus to remaking it now is, we live in the generation of PC players can add mods whenever they want.
Yeah.
And going back to Mr. Tyrant, one of my favorite mods now is anytime Mr. X pops out, the DMX song, there's a mod out, as you can hear.
Anyway, sorry, just wanted to play that. X gonna give it to you.
Yes, and X definitely will give it to you if you do not run. So make sure to tuck tail and hide out if you see him.
There's some pretty funny compilations of people getting terrified, but every time he comes into the room, it starts playing that music, and it's just,
I mean, overall, I think it's a pretty good game, and I wasn't really or at the time, I wasn't able to play those kind of games, so I might take a look at it.
I'm not a horror game type of person. I'll watch horror movies all day long, but the thought of... I immerse myself in my games, so it's terrifying, but part of me wants to be terrified by running into Mr. X. So I might also play this one.
And mod it, so that way the song comes up
whenever.
Man.
I feel like the song would startle me more than Mr. X.
Alright, we're going to move on here to Metro Exodus. This game is coming out February 15th, 2019. It's going to be made by 4A Games. They've only made the Metro games. They haven't made any other games. We'll talk about this after this game, but we made a spotlight on it, and while I was researching for it, I was like, I know I've heard of these guys, but they've only done Metro and Metro, what is it?
2022 and
else. Metro Last Light.
Yeah.
And that's all they've done. So yeah, this game is coming out, and you still play Artyom, and instead of being in the caverns, because this game is kind of like you're in the subways, you're in the caves underground, you have some kind of going out into the world moments, but they're just very brief in the game. And I have played the first one, and I feel like I want to go back and play it and play the second one. But yeah, you just kind of like hide out, and then this one is Metro Exodus is going to be more of a open world. You go out there, and they're including crafting now, and it's kind of on the spot crafting, kind of like Apex, where you can move your little pieces around and move stuff around. Like, that's how Metro Exodus is going to be doing their crafting. I mean, you're going to be dealing with new mutants because you're going to be above ground. So there's going to be mutants that can fly in on you and big old bear mutants. And then you're going to be dealing with other humans that are pretty bad. That I think one of them, I can't remember the name, but they are against all electricity and everything, so they're like this crazy cult that you have to deal with. But I think it's going to be introducing really good, a lot of new ideas. It's going to be linear, but it's also going to be sandbox, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Kind of like, I guess, Uncharted 4, where you came into an area, you could still move forward to the next area, but in that specific, say, square box room, you could search everywhere in that room and then move to the next room.
I guess the name of the game is pretty apropos then, as you're exiting the system.
Yeah.
The subways, and moving out into the real world.
But, yeah. This game is definitely going to be pretty interesting. Like I said, first two games, I guess kind of have a cult following where it's not the best reviewed game, but it is still, like, when people that play it, and I kind of felt the same way. At first, I was like, I don't know if I like this. And then as I started getting into fighting and the gameplay, and I kind of got a little better at the controls, I was like, oh, this is actually a lot of fun.
I was gonna say, I actually, it was a long time ago, but they had one for free on PlayStation 3 with PlayStation Plus. I can't remember which one it was, but I played like 20 or 30 minutes of it, and I really liked it, but I had other games I was playing at the time, and I kept telling myself to go back to it, but I never did. But I really want to at some point, because they look pretty good, especially this new one.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Basically, I've played a little bit of it, and the story sounds super interesting, especially with the Exodus now. Like, you're finally, sounds like a closing of the chapter. You're moving out of the subways and out into the real world to see how that's been impacted.
And kind of like The Witcher, these are actually based off of a book series. So if you guys, I like reading books, and I know a lot of people out there, like, video games are awesome, but a lot of people do like to read because, you can visualize the world. Or as they say, you look at wood for an hour and you just hallucinate.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, if you're looking for the books, it's Dmitry Glukosky. But yeah, he wrote this series back in the 90s, and it's pretty popular, at least in Russia. So I think that's why the games came out like this.
That's pretty cool. So are the books like pretty similar to it? Does it stay true to
it? Yeah, I think the books are pretty similar to the first two games, and this game is kind of like Game of Thrones,
Okay.
The newer seasons are kind of branching out.
Right. That's pretty awesome. I never knew it was based off a book.
Yeah, me either.
But this game, I'm definitely excited to play it. By the time this podcast comes out, it will be out. Actually, it's coming out this next coming week for us. Future us will be able to look at it more detailed.
Yeah.
But moving on, I'll let Calamity discuss this. But we have talked about these games before.
Yeah, so pretty much all these games, with the exception of, I think, the first one we talked about. Yeah, Apex, because we haven't done one on Apex. But most of these games that we're talking about right now, we have covered or will have covered by the time this podcast is out on our YouTube channel. So we're doing two series, which are kind of branches of the same thing, but they're the Spotlight and the Watch List. So the Spotlight videos, we talk about upcoming games, and we kind of try to give you as much information as we can about it in one place, because I know it's really hard sometimes when you're kind of interested in a game, but you don't know much about it. So you want to go online and, look it up and see what there is about it. And there's just all kinds of different articles with bits and pieces and videos that are a little bit convoluted, or they don't really give you all the information. So we try to put it all in one place so that you can just watch the video and basically see if it's going to be something you want to play or not. So we try to keep those around 8 to 10 minutes to pack as much information as we can. We do those every Saturday. And then we have the Wednesday watch list where we preview some smaller games. So we don't have a whole bunch of info about them in each video, but we kind of, you know, have that list of upcoming games, and that way you can at least see what's coming out. Some of those are going to be games coming out of early access or just indie games, smaller games that are, you know, not on everybody's radar, but maybe something you would be interested in had you heard about it. So that's what those are for. Hopefully to keep everybody informed on what's coming up and what you're going to be interested in playing. So with that, we're moving on to the next game, which we have already done a spotlight over. Like I said, I think until we get to At the Gates is the last one we'll have this month. Yeah. Far Cry New Dawn comes out, I think, on the 15th as well. And that's the new Far Cry game from Ubisoft Montreal. And that is pretty interesting because Far Cry 5 came out last year. And I don't think they typically do one every year. I don't think it's an annual series like Assassin's Creed or something. But this one seems like more of an offshoot. It's not numbered. It's not Far Cry 6. It's just Far Cry New Dawn. And it's kind of a direct sequel to the last one, which is also interesting because they've never really done that. It's always been new character, new setting, new place, new people. But this one is in the same place as Far Cry 5, which is Hope County, Montana. I don't believe it has the same protagonist, but it is set in the same place, but 17 years later. So at the end of Far Cry 5, spoilers, nuclear bombs got dropped, everything blew up, lots of people died. So now we get to see what happened because of that, and it looks to be pretty interesting. I like the post-apocalyptic setting in games like Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, things like that. But a lot of them do it wrong, like Rage, the first one. I don't know if you guys ever played that.
Yeah, that game was pretty good. It was just too short, in my opinion.
It was good, but the setting to me, the environment was just so dull, and it was just lots of rocks and tunnels.
Very Mad Maxy.
Yeah. I mean, there's only so many times you can have a Psycho from Borderlands to Rage, Mad Max, like, repeat himself over and over again. Some crazy dude that's just been fried. So I hope they don't have that in this one.
Well, yeah, so that's something that looks interesting about it, is that it's full of color. It's like, it's not that dingy dark gray, you know, people on
just
cars
because people aren't alive anymore doesn't mean that the plants and everything else have to die too.
Yeah.
No, the plants and everything else have to die.
No. Yeah, so this one's it's more like, I don't know if you guys have seen the trailer for Rage 2, which is also coming out pretty soon, I think next month or the month after. But that one's like their whole shtick with Rage 2 is that it's not like the first one. It's actually colorful and crazy, and there's people spray painting things, and I don't know, it's kind of a little bit insane, but that's what they're doing with this one, is that it's supposed to be colorful. It's not going to be that normal post-apocalyptic setting. It's going to be bright, and it's going to be more of this is how the world is being rebuilt than this is how the world was left after the bombs.
Honestly, that's kind of my preference. Like in zombie games or post-apocalyptic games, like, sure, it's interesting to see what caused that downfall, but I'm really more interested in how humanity handles the aftermath and works to rebuild instead of just keeping it, you know, complacent. Just, I think, this is our day-to-day. Like, how do you work to improve on that?
Yeah. I think a really good example of that is Horizon. Zero Dawn, where they melded in. As you play the game, you find out what happened, but you really get to experience in the game, like, what happened since then. How they've survived, kind of thing. And I feel like a lot of games, like, tend to forget that, and they try to be like, let's focus on
the here and now instead of before moving on.
Yeah, exactly. This one, I didn't get to play 5. I mean, I played it a little bit, but I haven't really gotten into it very much. I played 4 and 3. I really enjoyed those, and the first 2 way back in the day.
Yeah. That's the weird thing about Far Cry is that it's gone through so many different changes. Like, the first one was actually a completely different game. It had, like, mutations and, I don't know, a bunch of crazy stuff, and it wasn't at all like Far Cry 2 was. And then from there on, it's kind of kept the same pattern, but there's been weird things like Far Cry Primal, where you were a caveman, and Far Cry Blood Dragon, where you were like an 80s action hero.
I saw that one.
That's a really weird game. It's not really for me. It's not my aesthetic, but a lot of people liked it. But so the thing that I like about the Far Cry games is that there's that gameplay loop of you need to go to this outpost and try to kill all of the people and take over, and then boom, you've taken over that part of the map, and then you just keep doing it over and over and over. And it's fun. It keeps you engaged, but I feel like they need to move on from that and add a little bit more to it than they have with each of the last games. There's always been some additions, like with Far Cry 5, you could recruit animals. There was like a bear and a tiger, I think. I can't really remember, but you can recruit animals and people that'll come in and fight for you. And like, it's cool, and they keep adding little things like that, but it's not enough to make it feel like a brand new game.
Right.
And with this one being only a year after Far Cry 5, I don't feel like they had enough time to really reinvent it.
Yeah, honestly, at first I thought New Dawn was just going to be a DLC.
Yeah,
so you may want to treat it like just an expansion instead of its own separate entity.
Yeah, that's true, because it definitely feels a lot like Far Cry 5. It's even the cover art is like, it's the same picture but with new characters and like a new background.
So it's essentially Fallout 76. It's just Fallout 4 just reskinned and made a little bit different.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not because of that, I'm not super hyped up about it, but like I said, I've been playing Far Cry for a while and I like them, so I'll give it a shot once it's a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, it definitely seems worth checking out.
Yeah, at least that much. Alright, so the next game is Jump Force, and I'll let Flame to go and talk about that.
So this is another one I just helped make the spotlight for. It was actually hosted by Pixie Problem, my wife. You can check that out on our YouTube again. But so this is a fighting game. I don't really play fighting games that much, to be honest, but there have been a few here and there that I really liked, like Bloody Roar. Me and Trick have talked about that one. Super Smash Brothers, I like that. I occasionally play Mortal Kombat, but it's not really for me. But like I said, fighting games aren't really my thing, but this one seems really cool because I'm not actually a huge anime fan, but there are a few that I really like Death Note, and I recently got into Bleach. Some of the older ones like Yu Yu Hakusho and Rurouni Kenshin and Cowboy Bebop, stuff like that. Like, I really like that stuff, but this game looks really cool because it has pretty much all of that. It has all the old animes. I think the oldest one is City Hunter. I don't know. Have you seen that?
I haven't. I know I saw Kenshin in there and Yu Yu Hakusho, which was really nice because, like you were saying, that's my anime style right there. Like, I'm pretty old school, so it's a nice change of pace to have that included in there.
Yeah. So it has that, and then it has like super new stuff like Dragon Ball Super has the gold Frieza and the blue haired.
Yeah, the Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan.
Yeah, whatever it's called. Super Saiyan God 7 3.5 and a half.
Yeah, it also looked like there was some My Hero Academia in there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so there's definitely some new and some old, so it adheres to any anime fan's taste. You're going to find a little bit of what you're looking for in this game.
Yeah, so 40 plus characters, and then they said there's going to be 9 DLC characters, plus 4 characters that were made just for this game. It looks really cool. Something that I would probably play with some friends here and there.
I do like how it kind of seemed like a Mortal Kombat-esque game where there is a story, but you're predominantly fighting. But I do like that story part to it. Like, it adds more than just some of the other fighting games where you just pick characters and you get tossed out there to fight. Like, you actually have a purpose and a reason for fighting those people.
So yeah, that's Jump Force. I think my wife's more excited about it than I am because she played more, or she watched more anime than I did, and she knows more of those characters. But that's about all there is to say about that one right now. Trick, if you want to introduce the next one.
Our next game is probably one of my favorite games coming out soon. I know some of you guys have already gotten to check out the demo, and that is going to be Anthem, which is available on PS4, Xbox One, and PC. So basically, to give a quick summary of Anthem, you start out in a little area. I'm not sure if it's the full world or just the name of this portion, but it's going to be called the Bastion. You're a freelancer who basically has a javelin, and you're a gun for hire who works with other javelins to protect humanity from the literal shitstorm going on outside of your Fort Tarsus, which is where you start out. It looks like there's a lot of geoforming going on. There's radical storms, cataclysms, I think they're calling it, that come in. Monsters come up from it. It basically just wipes everything out and starts all over. So you have your little area where you're kind of protected, but there's a lot of hostile stuff going on. In addition to the freelancers, there's also 2 other major factions. There's the Dominion, which lies up in Strahlheim, and they're basically like a ferocious militaristic society. They're just basically set on controlling all of what's left of humanity, and Fort Tarsus people really are not fond of them at all. Protecting the fort, you have I believe they're called Sentinels, and they're basically just like your local police force. They make sure that people in the fort, cohabitate pretty well, cooperate together. They protect the inside, the javelins the freelancers protect the outside, and then everybody protects each other from the Dominion. From what I've heard, this game does have a rolling campaign, so you're going to get a full story. Don't freak out. You're going to get a full game's worth of content right off the bat, which is pretty amazing. But on top of that, they also have 3 different acts coming out over the next year, which are going to give you even more content. So don't worry about getting, running out of shit to do. You're still going to have plenty of stuff to build for your javelins and plenty of new things to learn about this world while you go through it.
And it's funny because people online gave them shit for releasing that roadmap because they were like, oh, so you have all this stuff already, but you didn't put it in the game. How dare you sell us an unfinished game? And it's just like...
yeah, they weren't going to be happy either way. Like, I personally think it's pretty awesome. Like, I love BioWare. Mm-hmm. Like, out of all the companies out there, BioWare is probably my favorite. Dragon Age is one of my favorite games. And I remember the first DLC or expansion I ever picked up was for Dragon Age. And it just blew my mind that not only did I get to experience this full game, but then so shortly after, they had a new almost full game come out with it. And it was just like this amazing thing. And now we get to experience that tenfold with Anthem. So I can't wait to see what all comes from it. Like, don't get me wrong, their demo weekend was really disappointing with some of the experiences they had. The rubber banding, the infinite loops. But I think they did an okay job of kind of explaining that they didn't expect for that to happen and it is going to get fixed before it comes out. So as long as we don't have those problems.
I really just wish they had called it what it was, a beta, not a demo.
It was more of an alpha than a beta.
Yeah. But
it was pretty rough.
They called it a demo, which made me think that you get to play the full game and it's going to be awesome, but it was more of a beta alpha test. Like, we are the ones that discovered all the issues that they weren't aware of.
Yeah, so. To be fair, that second weekend did seem to go better.
Oh, yeah. It was a lot better. Hopefully,
by the time it comes out, there won't be any issues at all, because this is easily one of those games that I'll put 100 hours into in no time.
But yeah, so I'm psyched about this game because what little time we got with it. I'm not normally a fan of those kinds of games. You could compare it to like Warframe or what is the other one?
I think a lot of people were trying to compare it to Destiny.
Yeah, so Warframe and Destiny. I'm not a huge fan of those, but this one, something about it, I don't know. I played with a couple different javelins, and it was just super fun.
I feel it's kind of like Apex, where they kind of picked pieces of a bunch of different little games and used those to make this amazing game.
Yeah, so I've got to say personally, Apex and Anthem, to me, are going to be contenders for Game of the Year.
Oh, yeah. Like, without a doubt.
We don't know what's coming out late year. We might still get a surprise The Last of Us 2 announcement or something like that.
And then the next day it comes out.
Yeah, right. I would die. But, yeah, so I think so far these 2 games are really going to be the game changers this year.
Without a doubt.
I definitely, not to go back to Apex, but how it came out, how well it's been doing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely going to change, how Fortnite changed the way a lot of games are played and stuff, and how things are sold and they can do so well. I think Apex is going to do the same, and hopefully Anthem here will do the same too. At least this one isn't going to be open 60 people on a map, right? It's just going to be...
No, so the way it works is you have squads of... you run around with squads of 4, or up to 4 people.
Okay.
So you can use 4 people in specific missions, or then you can go into the free play. And in the free play, I guess it's kind of like Fallout 76. I don't know how many other players you can come across, but there are other players on your server, so your team can come across another team, or like you can pair up. That's how we kept pairing up with those people in the free world. So,
well, I know that people were joining our team, but I didn't know that outside of our 4 people, you can see other people.
From what I've understood, in addition to your 4 people, you will see and interact with other people.
That's actually pretty
cool.
So,
that's why when we were playing it, I was talking about, I feel like there's going to be world boss shit. Like, there are in the free play, periodically there will pop up, like, random missions, and it looked like they were going to have the option, especially with the cataclysms, where there will be timed world bosses where you can all team up and go and kill it. But
so, I could talk about this game for hours, but we've got to move on to something else.
Yeah. I guess that I'll take that as the cue. Our next game that we're going to look at is At the Gates. It's already been released, but we were going to look at it just because it's a new 4K style game that came out. It's only on PC. It's made by John Schaefer, a guy who worked on Civilization 5. And it's a really awesome game in the aspect that it's like a lot of 4K games. There's Endless Legend, Civ 5, Civ 4, all the Civ games, where Civilization's kind of got a monopoly on it, but there are others like Endless Legend. If you do like Civ 5 or any of the Civilization games and you want something different, I would definitely check it out. And I said 4K earlier, I meant to say 4X is what it's supposed to be. 4K is a resolution, 4X is the style of game. In case you guys didn't know what a 4X game is.
I'm not really familiar with it, personally.
Here, let me just read the wiki here. It's explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate. So it's essentially a game that's a turn-based game where you control, think of like Risk, but as a computer game, I guess.
So Civilization.
Yes, exactly. So what this game essentially does is a little bit different. In Civilization, you can build up a lot of cities, but in this game, you have your main city, you're a band of barbarians, and you're roaming through the area after the Roman Empire has kind of ended. And so everywhere you move your city with you if you're expanding out. So it's kind of an interesting idea, and it's kind of gotten some good reviews and everything. But if you guys are looking for that, we do have a article, or our first spotlights where we didn't do any videos. We have that on our Facebook page at groups/Gamers Among Us. If you want to check that out and hop in and read some of our old articles on the games that we did before we did the videos, we did do that. But moving on, we're going to go ahead and look next at this game.
I just wanted to talk about Onimusha real quick. So Onimusha Warlords is actually a PS2 game. It was ported to Xbox, the first Xbox, as Onimusha Genma, but I never owned an Xbox. But so this game was one of my childhood favorites. It's in my top 10 games of all time. It is so cool. You're just a samurai going through killing demons, and you get all kinds of crazy sword upgrades, and you have like giant electricity attacks, and like some of the bosses are enormous for a PS2 game. And the final battle is one of the most epic final battles I've ever fought, because you're fighting I can't remember the name of it. Nobunaga, that's it. So you're fighting Nobunaga, and he turns into this giant snake thing, and then it has one of the best like cutscenes at the end of a game that I had ever seen at that point. So they just remastered this game for PS4, Xbox One, PC, and Switch. It's not a remake, so don't expect it to be beautiful. It looks like a PS2 game, but it's really worth checking out. And there's actually 2 sequels that were both on PS2. Well, 3. There was 3 games after that, but 2 were direct sequels after that hopefully they'll remake those as well, or remaster them anyway. But what I'm really hoping for is a new one. But until we get a new one, there are, of course, a couple games coming out that are kind of similar with the ancient Japan, feudal Japan sort of look. And we talked about this on the last episode of the podcast, but there's Ghost of Tsushima, which, of course, I'm super excited about. But we still don't know too much about that one. But we have learned a little bit more about Sekiro. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, which is the one from Software, the people that made Dark Souls, Bloodborne, all of that. There's a lot of gameplay that you can look up on YouTube and watch it, and it looks pretty cool. The big shtick about it is that that your main character he doesn't have an arm, so you attach things to the arm to replace it that are like different gadgets, and you get like a grappling hook, and you can, I guess, attach all kinds of different weapons to this arm, and that's what makes it really cool. And if you watch the gameplay, it feels a lot more fluid and quick and open compared to their other games like Dark Souls, where it feels like you're kind of always claustrophobic. You're always kind of stuck in an area with a bunch of enemies coming after you. But this game feels a lot more open. You can grapple hook from rooftop to rooftop and move around, and it just looks really cool. So I might give that a chance, but it's not going to be quite Onimusha, in my opinion. So I don't know if you guys are interested in Sekiro at all, but I might check it out. Again, it's probably not something I'm going to buy right when it comes out, but
right. I do like like you said, the feudal Japan thing is kind of a new, well, not necessarily new, but the niche of the year. Like there are 3 different games coming out in that era, and that is one of my favorite eras in history. So I feel like they're all definitely worth checking out, if for no other reason than you get to play as a badass samurai going around killing people. But
yeah. So we'll see how that one goes. We'll probably talk about it a little bit more next month because it comes out on the 22nd of March. So we'll talk about it once we have more info about it.
We're going to talk about next is Anno 1800. This game series is, personally for me, I played some of the original ones. I really like it. It's a city building game. So you kind of, at least the couple of them they've had, you're in the future. Some have been in the past, more medieval. So they have different types of ideas, whereas this one is more going to be centered around industrialization because it is that time period. And it's going to be more about conquesting islands. So a lot of your stuff is kind of like, I guess, Tropico, where you're going to be on an island and you're going to build up a city that you have to be ready for. In this one, though, they've actually added, you're going to need to be able to take care of the modernization of your town, plus tourism, plus you're going to need to think about the quality of life and the kind of the beauty of your town. So in this game, they actually came up with a new, I guess, design. You might not be able to build a certain building at that point, but you can click on an area and they have like, I think it's called a blueprint, and it will show you the building, so that way you don't have to build it. You might not have the materials yet, but you can at least blueprint it and say, hey, look, this can go here later, so save that spot right there. And it lets you do that, so that way you can plan for the future, which I don't know if you guys have played a lot of city building games, but that really helps out because, at least for me, when I play city building games, I'm just like, all right, put it here, put it here, put it here, and then later on I'm like, oh, I need to run the waterworks through here, or the roads this way to make it more unified. And for me, at least, that's a really big plus for city building games. And there are some city building games that are out there that kind of incorporate military and city building. A good example would be Tab, or otherwise known as They Are Billions, where you build a city, but you also have to build defenses, and you have to build people up to fight against the zombies kind of thing. So it's incorporating kind of new designs, but also sticking to the old ones. Anno, the series, has had a lot of issues in the past because they kind of did what SimCity did, where you had to be online pretty much 100% of the time, or else the game wouldn't connect for you. That being said, this game might have that feature removed, but we'll see. I know that feature is in a lot of games to prevent piracy.
Yeah.
Piracy of the high seas. But it doesn't really seem to have a lot of issues. I mean, personally for me, not promoting piracy, but I feel like it is a good thing because it promotes that people are like, if I like this game, I'm going to go buy it instead of spending $60 for a game I don't like. Black Ops 4.
Well, there's a huge debate about it. Some people are understanding of it. Some companies will make a game so that if you pirate it, it'll actually like lock you out of the final boss battle or something like that. But,
right, just a little.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are games that do that where they actually throw in you pirated this game? Well, here, this is going to happen. And it's like, I know, and since I just mentioned it, they are Billions. They have a feature that it will, I think when you get to day 100, because there's a certain amount of days that you go, and then the 100th day, that's when billions of them come out. Mm-hmm. Well, they actually start spawning in your base.
That's
so, yeah, if you stole the game, that will happen.
I really like stuff like that. And that's fair because, I mean, if you've played it to that point...
Right. You almost got the whole game anyway.
Yeah.
For free. Yeah. So, yeah. It's nice that they can have a sense of humor about it.
Yeah. But moving on, next we have Crackdown 3, which is finally coming out February 15th. Just shows it's going to be on console devices, though Xbox and... Or actually, no. I'm incorrect. That's Xbox and PC. And it's excluding PS4. This is the third game in the series, obviously, titled Crackdown 3. There's been a lot of speculation about this game. Essentially, they came out with an E3. I don't want to be negative on the game just because it is coming out, but the gameplay footage is pretty shitty. It is the same old. Like, pretty much all the reviews online have been just saying, hey, it's just going to be the same game, and, that's why we love it, kind of thing. But they have added a few new features into it. They have a new system called Gangs Bite Back, where a boss or a kingpin, as you're destroying areas, will retaliate against you. So you're, like Trick said, you're kind of a super crime fighting hero agent dude. So it's kind of, think of like GTA mixed with James Bond, I guess. I don't know. But
is it like futuristic, like laser guns and...
Yeah, there will be a lot of laser guns, and you're going to be jumping around and shooting stuff. So I guess less GTA and more, what's the other game that's like GTA?
Red Dead Redemption.
Saints Row. There you go. Yeah, so it's going to be...
the direction I was
yeah. No, like Saints Row, where it's just kind of like Saints Row 4, where it's just like you had superpowers. It kind of came to a point where it's just like, okay, this is goofy as shit. Like, I'm just running around with a giant dildo, whacking aliens, and destroying them. And, like, you can literally do that in that game. That's what Crackdown 3 is kind of like.
Okay.
It's similar to that kind of gameplay style where you just run around as a super agent. And, I mean, they have Terry Crews promoting it. So it's...
I guess that explains a lot about it.
Yeah, it's either going to be like an Old Spice commercial where you're running around doing stuff. But that brings us to the last game we have on our list.
Last but not least, and on a slightly more serious note, we have a new Square Enix game called Left Alive. Left Alive is going to be a brand new survival action shooter, and it's going to be for the PS4 and PC, so you Xbox fans will just have to sit tight and move on to something else. Veteran developers, quite a few of them have teamed up on this. We have Toshifumi Nabeshima, the director of the Armored Core series.
Good job.
This next one I'm totally going to butcher. Yoji Shikanawa from Kojima Productions. He did character designer for Metal Gear Solid series. And we also have Takayuki Yanase, which is the mech designer for Ghost in the Shell Arise, Mobile Suit Gundam 00, and the Zero Blade Chronicles X, which is pretty legit. They all joined forces to create Left Alive's dark and gritty world. Little synopsis. Left Alive tells a human story of survival from the perspective of 3 different protagonists surviving the devastating invasion set in war-torn Novoslava in 2127. You experience the massive power gap between man and machine, impulse-pounding encounters. You can face off against powerfully armored troops, armored vehicles, and towering mechs.
So this is another one that I don't really know anything about. Is it going to be sort of like Anthem? Like...
I don't know. I haven't really... Because this game is actually going to be one of our spotlights.
It'll probably come out around the same time as this podcast episode.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, I don't think you get to actually play in the mech suits. I think it's like the opposing military forces From what I've seen of it, you're basically just trying to take them down. But I think you're more of like a...
I don't think
you can choose 3 different people.
Open world sandbox kind of situation, because it says you're going to be following 3 different characters as you progress through the game. So you're going to experience different story paths, but...
It does seem to be very single player.
Yeah, it definitely does seem to be single player. So, I mean, this game is definitely pretty cool. It's kind of surprising. This is one of the only games we've talked about that seems like it's a new game.
Yeah, and from looking at the pictures and
at least the past
things
few
about
months.
it definitely looks really interesting. I mean, it is Square Enix, so they rarely fail to deliver, at least on the graphics front. And their storylines are usually pretty legit, even if a little convoluted, which this one seems like it might be.
Yeah, that's also interesting to me, because they don't really branch out of the, like, Final Fantasy Kingdom Hearts realm very often.
Yeah, and this is totally different. I mean, we're talking like, this is more of like a war-type game, where you're choosing between 3 different characters and how they're handling the war. So it's definitely going to be an interesting one to keep an eye out on. It does come out on the 5th of March, so I will definitely be taking a look at it at that point. Are we going to be doing a spotlight on that? Did we talk about that?
Yeah, we are.
That'll be the last one we do.
Awesome.
This month, anyway.
All right.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk real quick about the developers, because we talked about Square Enix on the Kingdom Hearts 3 about how they've made it so convoluted and crazy. They even did that Final Fantasy 15, where you had to watch a 2-hour movie before you played the game if you wanted to understand what was going on when the game started. So I feel like developers nowadays are starting to kind of go crazy with stuff. They're trying to be more multimedia like that. There's always apps that you can download that integrate with different games. I think GTA 5 had one.
Dying Light had one where you could, like, send people out, like, in the game. Like, the game on your phone was to, like, send people out, and they would come back with stuff, and after a certain amount of time you got enough stuff, you could actually collect material and give it to the guy in game, in your game in Dying Light, and it would have the app stash or whatever, and you would go collect that, so you could, like, actually get some really good loot.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, there are a lot of games where it's, I mean, to be fair, like, you know, as gamers among us, we understand that, you know, there are people out there that are, like, super heavy mobile gamers, whereas there's other people who are super heavy console gamers, and then there's, of course, the people who think that they're master race, the PC. And, like, I think developers see that and they go, hey, you know, I can not only make them enjoy the game when they're at home, but I can make them enjoy it while they're at work or they're out doing stuff by adding this app.
Yeah.
And I think in a way they're just like, this is really awesome. But at the same time, like you said, it kind of gets convoluted after a while, especially if, like, Kingdom Hearts 3, they have the Kingdom Hearts game and it has all this other story stuff. Yeah. And it's just like...
It should add to it, not...
be crucial. Like, you shouldn't have to watch a movie to play a game.
Yeah.
Like, it used to be you had a game and they gave you enough clues in that game where you could build your own, the history. Like, that's one thing I like about Horizon, is it talks about what happened before Horizon, and that's a crucial part of the game. Like, you learn the prequel in the game as you're playing it. And, like, nowadays, like Calamity was trying to say, you have to watch a video just to play a game, and that seems, it really takes away from the game for me.
I think a game that really did that well was The Witcher 3. Like, it... Yeah, Calamity doesn't like The Witcher 3, but that's okay. We'll convert him someday. Yeah. But you didn't have to play Witcher 1, which was really horrible gameplay style. The graphics were really bad. And then Witcher 2 kind of definitely did a little bit better, but you could play Witcher 3 and read stuff in the game and figure out the lore of Witcher 1 and 2 without having to, like, go back and watch just to, like, you know, catch up. You could kind of understand why the world is in an upheaval, why stuff is happening right now. And I feel like a lot of people, like you're saying, don't understand that, and they try to add the app, so they try to add the movie, just kind of like cop out, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I think these developers, like, I haven't played Metal Gear Solid, I haven't played Ghost in the Shell, but I know a lot of the Gundam stuff is pretty legit, and I have played Xenoblade Chronicles, and it's not like that. So I feel like this might be kind of a change of pace where you don't have to do a whole lot of research into this game that we know nothing about to play.
Yeah. Oh, Left Alive?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so the funny thing is we have the other extreme going on now with Black Ops 4. I touched on it a little bit earlier, I think, but so there's a whole lot of controversy going on. I showed you that tweet from David Vonderhaar, which is the lead Blackout developer, and he's getting reamed for it. But basically, they spent 3 years making this game, and it feels like they made it in a month. Like I play Call of Duty a lot. I've played it a lot for the last couple of years, and I've put probably 50, 60 hours into Black Ops 4 already, but none of which is Blackout. I always just play the multiplayer. But it's funny how Activision is handling it, because there's these bugs that have been there since the beta that people have talked about, and they keep saying, oh yeah, we're going to fix that, we're going to have this feature, we're going to do this. And these are things that were in Black Ops 3, their last game, like things that should have worked from launch, should have already been working in the beta because they were working in their previous game, and they're still not working now 4 or 5 months after the game was released, and they just keep making excuses. And the only thing that they've updated the game with is more cosmetic stuff that you can spend actual
more
money
gotcha
on.
stuff.
Yeah, and it's crazy to me that there's people doing too much, like Square Enix. There's people doing just the right amount, like
the bare minimum,
BioWare. Yeah, and then there's the people doing the bare minimum, like Activision. And it's crazy that we have such extremes right now,
where they're just kind of like, you should be groveling at our feet and happy that we put out shit for you.
Yeah, I think
and
the
that's
problem,
kind of how it feels.
It is, and the problem is there's still, like, for every gamer that's like, hell no, I'm not going to play this game because this company is a piece of shit and won't fix their problems. There's 10 people that don't think about things like that, and they're just like, well, I want to play this universe, so they'll buy it. And, like, it really is a disadvantage for the diehard fans that, you know, they're more concerned about the money than they are providing actual decent gameplay.
Yeah, and the problem is Activision and Treyarch made this game super quick because 2 years into their 3-year timeline, they had to scrap their story mode and start making Blackout because they were like, oh, Fortnite's making a bunch of money, we need to do that. So they had to scrap everything that they were working on and then rush out this mode. So it's half a game, but it's $60 plus $50 if you bought the Black Ops Pass, which I, like an idiot, did. And the only thing I've gotten out of that is 2 extra maps, actually, which you only get to play every once in a while because they have to pop up in the playlist, and they never do.
It's just a prime example of greed, really. Like, this game is the epitome of greed in a gaming company right now.
Yeah.
Well, a good example, I don't know if I mentioned this last podcast, but I've been playing Hollow Knight, and that game was made by 4 people.
Yeah.
And it is a huge game. Like, there's a bunch of stuff going on, and it's not even full, like, AAA pricing. It's, I think, $25, and then it goes on Steam sale, like, pretty often, and you can probably get it for $15-10. And that game, like I said, it's made by 4 people. Mm-hmm. Then you have games like Fallout 76 or Black Ops 4 or all these other games where it's like, was this made by one guy that's smoking crack in his basement? Like, what the hell? Like, come on, guys. Like, make it. And then you have a game like, I think Apex is more than just a good game. It's a wake-up call to a lot of these gaming companies that, like, hey, get your shit together, guys. Yeah. Like I said earlier, like,
these bugs aren't an excuse anymore. Like, we can't just keep laughing them off. Like, oh, you know.
Yeah, it's not a funny quirk. It's like, your fans are getting tired of this. Yeah. And you can only, like, give us, you know, good dog poop covered in chocolate on a platter so much before we're like, hey, this is actually poop.
Yeah. It's like releasing a movie and the audio is 2 seconds behind the video.
Yeah.
And that, like, they just expect you to be okay with that. And it's just like, you gave us an unfinished product, and I spent a bunch of money on it, and it takes you 6 months to finally put out an update that finally fixes it, which in a case like Black Ops, like, that's one of those games where it has that certain life cycle because the next Call of Duty is coming out this November or whatever. So at that point, a bunch of players are going to drop off, and it changes throughout the year. It becomes a different game based on who's picking it up and starting to play it and who's dropping off it. And you miss out on a lot of that when the game comes out and it's half a game and it's bug to hell. And
exactly.
I don't know. I just think the excuse moving forward, in our future of, oh, it's just a funny quirk, or yeah, we'll get that fixed, like we just wanted to get the game out. It's like, no, dude. You have people, and that's, like, I know we keep harping on it, but that's really one thing why, like, Apex, like, yeah, they have issues, but they are on top of it just as good as Fortnite is. And that's one reason why Fortnite's done so well, is because they are on top of the issues pretty quickly. And it seems like these big developers like Activision or EA, they're just like, oh shit, what are we going to do?
Yeah. I do think the Battle Royale, especially the free-to-play options, has kind of opened up a new window, because now there's suddenly games that people don't have to pay for to play, and it is kind of putting the heat on full-price games. And I feel like, I mean, not to say that this is for sure going to be the future, but I feel like BioWare kind of took a good approach to it. Like, yes, you have to pay full price for this game, but we're going to give you so much extra content at no additional cost, because they've already said they're not doing a season pass. So if they change their mind on that, they're blatantly lying. And like, they're giving you several games worth of content all at once, and I feel like that's kind of what it's going to need to turn into in order to compete with games like Apex or even Fortnite. Like, there's so many options where, I don't have to pay that, and I can go play this game with my friends for 500 hours, and we're still going to find new shit to do. So I feel like we're definitely approaching a new style of game development.
Yeah, and it's really weird timing, because it's right at the end of the decade, so the 2020s are going to be remembered for this new, fresh take on video game releasing
right.
and developing. But it's awesome. Like I said, we have things like Activision that are dropping bombs on us, like Black Ops 4, but everybody learned from it. The people that wasted money on it learned from it. They learned from it because everybody hates their game. Like that tweet I was talking about, the lead Blackout developer, he's actually pretty upset because nobody likes his game, and a lot of people are giving him shit for that, because it is kind of his fault, and he has, if you look through his history, he's tweeted out, things that they're working on, and it's going to be here next week, and it just never comes. So they're going to learn from that. Next game they come out, hopefully they'll do a lot better with it, but all these other companies are showing them up pretty quickly.
And I mean, look at EA. Everybody thought they were done for after Battlefront. Yeah. That was it. But I mean, they brought out Apex and Anthem, and both of those are a huge step up from the shitstorm that was Battlefront. Now keep in mind, Anthem hasn't come out yet completely, so we still don't know. It could turn, it could take a turn south and just become this huge cash cow, but for now, it looks like their EA is helping pave the way for a totally new style, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. It definitely is going to be, like you said, it's going to be interesting to see the next few years of games, just because I feel like we've kind of been there's been good games, but overall it's been kind of like a lull, they'll accept this because there's really nothing else for them to play, and now it's going to be like, oh, they have other things to play, so they're not going to accept shitty quality anymore.
Yeah, and with the Battle Royale genre branching out, we've probably got to stop pretty soon, but just a final comment from me about this. So the Battle Royale genre is kind of exploding, and it's showing people that you don't have to bring out a 60-hour campaign with a bunch of different characters and storylines. You could just release a fun game with people just going at each other, and it be the game of the year. Like Fortnite was the game of the year, and it's such a simple concept. It's such a simple game. So hopefully they don't stop making those huge, The Last of Us, God of War, things like that. I don't think they ever will, but...
Well, not how God of War did so well last year.
Yeah.
I don't think it would.
Those are still doing great, but people are starting to see, hopefully, and they'll learn from it, that if you want to make a big game like that, but you don't release it very well, you only half make it, it comes out with a bunch of bugs, a la Fallout 76, you're not going to make it anymore, because there's all this competition. There's these free games people can play that are going to be so much more fun than your game will be. So I think the quality of these bigger games are going to get better in the next couple of years because of the free-to-play games.
Yeah. And on that note, talking about the best games and then how some of the other games didn't turn out, we're going to end the podcast here, but you're definitely going to listen to our next podcast because episode 3 is going to be the best and the worst of 2018.
Yep, I'm excited to talk about some shitty games.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
I mean, as you can tell, we've already talked about some. But we want to thank everyone for listening to the podcast, if you've listened this far, to us rambling on about our opinions. But, this is the Gamers Among Us, and I'll let you...
we just want to make sure you're aware you can reach us on Facebook. We've plugged the link so many times in this podcast, but please come and check us out. Just come talk. We have like a Meme Monday where you can just post a bunch of memes and jokes and stuff. We have fun in there. So facebook.com/groups/Gamers Among Us, or you can hit us up on Twitter. The Steel Grizzly handles that part of it, but that's @GamersAmong. You can ask us questions or give us suggestions or ask how to join our Discord because we have one of those. Also, again, Wilucco's not here for this episode, but he will be joining us with the next one. So he streams 6 days a week, as does the Steel Grizzly. Is it 6 days?
It's 5.
5 days. So they both stream every week, at least 5 days. Twitch.tv/Wilucco, WILUCCO, and he's, Monday through Saturday? He doesn't do Sundays now?
Yeah, that's what he is now, and I think it's about 12 a.m. Pacific time.
Yeah.
Or not Pacific, sorry, East Coast.
Yeah. And then we're always in each other's chats. We're always there hanging out, so you can talk. You can just come on Twitch and join either one of theirs, and some of us will be in there for sure, just talking to each other. I don't know your exact link, so I'll let you give it.
Oh, yeah, it's just twitch.tv/the_steel_grizzly. And I only stream after 10 p.m. Central Time because I work during the day and I kind of get off a little bit later, so I stream a little bit later at night. So if you guys want something to go to sleep to or just want to hang out, late at night if you have a night shift, that's when I stream. And, just like I just wanted to input here, Calamity at the end said, is we're all like, we want to build a community and we all want to get together, and so we've kind of started doing that. We've got a group of friends where we all just kind of hang out together, and in the future we might actually have some of those friends coming in on our podcast, and we're pretty excited about some that might be coming in. But we did want you guys to check all that out. Our Discord is where a lot of us talk, besides Facebook. If you don't have Facebook, what is the Discord? Is Gamers Among Us.
Yeah, but you have to have the invite link. So the best way to do that is to... we have it in the description of all of our YouTube videos. You can just click it on there to get added in.
Yeah, and the best way to do that is to go to YouTube. Check us out there. It's Gamers Among Us. And you'll be able to see us there. And make sure you check out our videos. If you like it, make sure you like and subscribe. And also leave a comment. Like Calamity said, on Twitter you can leave me a comment because I handle that portion. Just, give us ideas on what games you'd like to see in the future podcasts, or what games you'd like to see spotlighted if you're looking on YouTube. And we'll be able to definitely interact and get in touch with all that stuff. But instead of just rambling on, we'll go ahead and end it here. We just want to thank everyone for listening, and this is the Gamers Among Us group here saying goodbye, and thank you for listening to episode 2 of Grains of Sand Gamecast.
Catch you next month.